Hey everyone, I hope you're having a great day. My name is John Kirchner, and this is Motivational Mondays. I'm sure that probably about 90% of you that are watching this have a furry little friend at home. And if you have a furry little friend at home, I'm sure that at some point in long life of one of them has probably passed in your life. And you know just how hard that is because they become a part of your family. Well, that's exactly where I was a little over 3 weeks ago. I had a little boy named Eddie. He was a Shih Tzu, which is half Shih Tzu and half Poodle. I would love it when people would say, "What kind of dog is that?" I'd say, "He's a Shih Tzu." They're like, "He's a what?" But if a kid asked me, I wouldn't say he was a Shih Tzu, because if I did, I was afraid that he was gonna go running back to his parents and go, "Mommy, Daddy, that man in the wheelchair is cussing. He said shit and poo." So I have to call him a schnoodle. But anyhow, Eddie was kind of like a sandy blonde color, and he had super long hair all the way down to the ground. And everywhere we would go, because he would go everywhere with me, I had a special leash with a little clip on it, and I just clip it to the side of my wheelchair and off we go. Never left him at home. I mean, we would go to church and here and there, and we would sit right up in the front of church, and the band was crazy loud. And do you think Eddie would start barking or anything? No, he just laid there on the ground, just sleeping. And everywhere we would go, people would always stop and they're like, "Oh my God, that is such a cute fluffy dog. Can I pet your dog? Can I pet your dog?" And I'm like, Of course, Eddie would eat that up. And everywhere we went, every single day, we would come across at least 5 people who would be going, "Oh my God, what a cute little dog, cute little dog." And I would ask them, I would say, "How old do you think he is?" I always ask people because nobody ever gets it right. And they would say, 3? I said, "No." They'd say, 5? I'm like, "No." The highest I think I got was 8. And when I would tell him, well, not him, but when I would tell people that he was almost 17 years old, they would flip out. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you take excellent care of him." I said, I'm not the one that I attribute his youthfulness and his energy and his vitality to. I owe it to 2 things. 1, he's definitely blessed by God. But 2, everywhere we go, people are stopping and saying, "Oh, we're a pretty dog, we're a pretty dog." I said, imagine if every time you left the house, everyone that you came in contact with said, "Oh my gosh, you are so handsome, you're so beautiful, can I shake your hand, can I give you a hug?" And things like, you would never know what stress is. You would come home every day saying, "Oh my gosh, I had the most amazing day." I'd say, you probably lived to be 150. Well, unfortunately, Eddie didn't live to be that long. And it was really kind of sudden too, because there was a Sunday about a month ago, and Sunday night he's kind of tripping over his feet and wobbling and basically looked like he was hammered drunk. So my roommate and I, we get him and we haul butt over to the emergency veterinary hospital, and they check him out. They thought he had a seizure. So they gave him some medication. Well, after a little while, the doctor came in with Eddie, and we got to talking, and she said, "The more that I'm watching him, the more I'm seeing him, I don't really think that it was a seizure. I think it just might have been something else." And when I was looking at his blood work, and they did a full workup on his blood, she said, when I looked at his blood work and then I saw his age, I was shocked. She said, I thought this was an 8-year-old dog. I couldn't believe it. She said, that is one healthy dog. Well, that whole next week, he was fine. He had no problems, no staggering, no stumbling, no nothing. Until that next Sunday night. And he was doing the same thing. He was really tripping over his feet, wobbling back and forth, falling down. And I said, okay, tomorrow when my friend comes in, I'm definitely gonna have him go and take him to the vet immediately. So Monday morning comes around, and as soon as they open up, I call the vet and I tell them what's going on, and they're like, oh, just bring him in as soon as you can. So as soon as my buddy came in around 9 o'clock, he took Eddie and went over to the vets. Well, they were there for a while, and then the doctor finally called me, and she said, oh, Eddie has this and this and blah, blah, blah. And I've got some medication and I'm gonna be sending it home with him. And I'm thinking, oh, thank you, Jesus, he's coming home. Oh, praise God, thank you so much, doctor. So we get off the phone, and no more than 2 minutes later, she calls me back. And I'm like, hello? She said, right after I got off the phone with you, I looked over at Eddie and he just collapsed in the cage. And I went over to him and I lifted up his head and I let go and it just collapsed onto the cage. I said, so what does that mean? And she said, well, how quickly can you get over here? I said, why do you want me to get over there? She said, well, we can do, the euthanasia in the parking lot. I said, absolutely not. I said, there's no way we're gonna do that. I said, have my friend come in, settle up the bill, and get Eddie and come home. She said, I don't think that he's gonna make it home. I said, well, then get off the phone with me and get it all done so he can come home. I said, I don't want him dying out there. I said, if he's gonna die, I want him to be at home with me. So we settle up, my friend is coming back with Eddie, and I have one of those Ring doorbells. It's got the camera on it. And when my van is parked right in front of my condo so I can see the van. And so I'm just waiting for my friend to get back with Eddie. And I see him pull in and he goes around to the back and picks up Eddie, and he just looked completely lifeless. And he brings him into my room and sets him down on the bed next to me. He was like a wet rag, and his hair was all messed up, and he was in such pain, just yelping and yelping. And we gave him some stuff to help calm him down. But I knew that it had to, the one thing that nobody ever wants to do, I realized that I had to do it. So I had called this company called Lap of Love, and I'll leave a link down below so that you can check them out, because there was one time that I had to put one of my dogs down, and I did it at the vets. I gotta tell you, there's no worse feeling than going into the vets with your dog and then leaving without your dog. So I had called these people and I had used them before, and they're kind of like hospice for dogs. And so I asked them to come out tomorrow, and they did. And well, just to get over with real quickly, they went ahead and, did their thing, and, that was that. But I've got to tell you, Eddie lived such an amazing life. He traveled all over. In fact, there was one time that a bunch of my friends and we were going down to the Bahamas. Well, I wanted Eddie to go with us, but I didn't want to put him into a crate and then check him in with the luggage, have him down there in the belly of the plane with all the rest of the baggage. He'd be freaking out. And I started thinking to myself, I was like, there's seeing eye dogs, there's companion dogs. They have the vest on, they go everywhere, and nobody says anything. So I'm like, I'll just go online, buy a little vest for him, and that'll be that. So I got him this cute little blue vest, and it had his name embroidered on it, and there was even a little patch on there that says support dog, and it's got a little paw and a human hand. It was perfect. So we get to the airport, we snap it on him, and we go to check in, and the first thing out of the lady's mouth, she says, sir, it's gonna cost $150 for your dog. He's gonna have to be in a crate, and he's gonna have to get checked in with the luggage. I said, see his little vest? He's with me. She looked over the counter, she said, oh my gosh, sir, I am so sorry. Please forgive me. Go right ahead. So we cruise on. Now we're sitting in line at the security. Well, while we're sitting there, this little boy reaches down to pet Eddie. All of a sudden, the mother snatches his hand, says, no, he's a working dog. I'm giggling inside my head because I'm thinking, Eddie doesn't do any tricks. He doesn't listen to me. And the only time he ever comes to me is if I have food on my lap. So we go through security, no problems. Get on the plane, no problems. And we take off, Eddie's sitting on my lap. Till about halfway through the flight, when he looks up at me and he's like, Daddy, I'm gonna go check out the rest of the plane. And he jumps off my lap. He's running up and down the aisles. He's jumping in and out of people's laps. And you could see the look on their faces. And they were kind of like, is this what a support dog is supposed to be doing? It was fun. But anyhow, we get down to the Bahamas, go through customs, no problems. Get to the hotel, not pet friendly, but once again, there's little Eddie wearing his vest. We had an amazing time. And now Eddie is an international traveler. Well, we did that same trip 2 more times and never had any problems except for this one time. And it was customs down in the Bahamas. And we're trying to go through, and the gentleman says, I need to see the papers on the dog, man. I said, well, I don't have them, but he's wearing a vest, so clearly he is official. He said, you don't give me the papers, you don't get your dog. He has to stay here in the kennel. Once you leave, then you get your dog back. I said, would $10 be that paper you're looking for? He said, that'd work, man, that'd work. So if you're planning a trip down the Bahamas, and you want to bring your dog with you, just go online, get a little vest, bring $10 with you, and you're home free. But one of Eddie's favorite pastimes was rolling around in the grass. We would go out, and it wouldn't be that bad if it weren't for the fact that every day you have to comb him out for at least 45 minutes. I mean, that's how much hair this little guy had. And thankfully, I'm paralyzed, so I don't have to do it. Everybody else does. So I'm like, Eddie needs to get brushed again. I'll just watch TV while you do it. But anyhow, when I went to go adopt Eddie, prior to adopting him, I had a 90-pound Akita and a 125-pound German Shepherd. These are 2 very large and loud dogs. And I said, my next dog is going to be small and he's going to be quiet. So I went to one of these pet stores on the weekend when they were doing adoptions. And I'm rolling past all the cages, and each one of those dogs is just, and I'm rolling past going, no, 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 no. All the way to the third from the end. There was Eddie. He was just chilling sitting in the middle of his cage, not making a sound. He had much shorter hair, except for his ear hair. For some reason, they had grown his ear hair so long it was almost on the ground. He kind of looked like a little stoner hippie dog. And I said, that's my dog right there. And he was 2 years old when I adopted him. And you'd think that he'd have that 2-year-old, young dog energy, just running around, all that kind of stuff, playing with toys and whatnot. No, that wasn't Eddie. He liked to chill and relax. He was more like a cat. I would put the head of the bed up and watch TV at night, and he would sit on the head of the bed right above my head and just have his legs hanging down. It was kind of like his own little perch. And it was just, he's just an amazing dog. I don't have any kids of my own, so I would always introduce Eddie as my hairy little son. He's just a amazing dog. He was the one constant in my life for 15 years. And he had seen me go through a lot of different things. He saw me go through 2 different engagements. Yes, 2. It's better than 2 marriages, I suppose. He was there when my mother passed. He was there when my father passed. He was there for every huge milestone in my life, where other people might have passed away or I don't see anymore. Eddie was always there. I could always count on him being there. And sadly now, he's not. But that's okay. My father, well, I should say, my mother, she had adopted a dog named Maggie. And this was January of 2010. And it was around the same time that my mother had been battling leukemia. Well, those two took to each other like fish to water. Or as my mother would say, we're thick as thieves. And they truly were. The only person that could walk Maggie, my mother. The only person that could feed Maggie, my mother. Maggie never paid attention to my father, never even gave him the time of day, or anybody else for that matter. And unfortunately, that July, my mother passed. And at that point in time, my father had already had Alzheimer's for about 2 years. So I insisted that he come and live with me. Because growing up and throughout my entire life, my parents were always there for me, especially after my accident. And I'd be a pretty lousy son if when my father needed me the most, I wasn't there. And I am so incredibly thankful and blessed that I had the ability and the opportunity to be able to have my father live with me and take care of him. And so it was my father and Maggie that moved in. Well, Maggie, who had never given my father a time of day, had now shifted all the love that she had from my mother immediately to my father. And those two would be sitting on the couch for hours with Maggie in my dad's lap, and he would just be sitting there petting her and petting her. It was almost as if they were there to console one another. And it was an amazing thing to see. And unfortunately, when my father passed, which was 5.5 years later, and I've got to tell you, the 5.5 years that my father lived with me were definitely the best 5.5 years of my life. But when my father passed, all the love that Maggie had for my father immediately shifted, you guessed it, to me. So now I'm the only one that could take her for a walk, which if I'm already in bed, that becomes a little bit more of a trying aspect, if you will. But she was just an amazing dog as well. And but my father would spoil Maggie and Eddie so much. I mean, when my father moved in, Eddie weighed 20 pounds. Within about 6 months, Eddie weighed 30 pounds. I mean, my father would be eating ice cream at the breakfast table, and he'd scoop a whole bunch with his fingers. He'd reach down and let the dogs lap it up, because of course they're right down there on the ground looking straight up at him, because they knew that he's going to give them a lot of food. In fact, there would be some nights when he and I were in my room hanging out, watching TV and having dinner. My father would eat maybe half of his food, and then he'd start setting the plate down like, "Daddy, no. I said, that's for you, that's for you." I said, "Don't give it to the dogs." He's like, well, they're hungry. They want to eat. I'm like, "Daddy, they're always hungry. They'll forever be hungry." He's like, "Well, hey, they look hungry." So he'd put the plate down. Well, as soon as they would devour that, Eddie would boom, boom, jump right up on my bed and start staring me down. And what does my father say? Make sure you leave some food on your plate there. Dogs are hungry." And once again, "Daddy, the dogs are always hungry. They'll eat until they vomit, and then they'll probably eat the vomit." I remember when I was a kid growing up, we had 3 dogs, 3 Cairn Terriers, Sandy, Buffy, and Skipper. And I came into the kitchen one night, and my father was cooking something up on the stove. And I said, "What are you cooking, Daddy? That smells delicious." He said, "Making some burgers for the dogs." And I said, "Well, can I have one of those?" He said, "Nope, told you, they're for the dogs." I said, "Well, how about after you make them for all the dogs, can I have one?" He said, "Nope, no more meat. All went to the dogs. Should have been in here earlier." So it started from way back. And so yeah, he definitely liked to spoil them, that's for sure. So I'm at the point now where I'm ready to adopt another dog, because I had never been without a dog ever since I was 9 years old, and I'm 49. So that's a long time to go with always having a dog, and now I don't have one. And I would always, look out my doorway to my bedroom and be expecting to see a little dog come running around the corner. Well, I can thankfully say that I have adopted a new dog, and I get to pick him up tomorrow. And his name is Bob. And when I get him, I'll definitely do another video so you guys can see him. He is adorable. When we went to go check him out, and we're out in the little play area waiting for him to come out, the moment he came out, he immediately came running over to me, jumped on my lap, and I started petting him, and he just laid down. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is awesome. And he definitely chose me, that's for sure. And he didn't even get down until I asked my friend Peggy to put him down to see if he'll run around and stuff. And oh yeah, he did. So I put my chair in high gear and I'm chasing him all around. And that was a lot of fun. Well, I'm sure that a lot of you are probably going through the same thing that I am. And you might be going through it right now. And if so, I'm deeply sorry, because I truly know just how painful this is. I mean, it's a part of life. Whether it's a human or a furry little friend. And actually, I don't know why I said furry little friend, because they're more than friends. They're members of our family. So, I know it's a terrible cliche when somebody says, oh, time heals all wounds. Nobody wants to hear that. But it actually does. And it does heal all wounds. And it does help. And if you're going out there to find another doggy, then just stay positive. Stay with a positive attitude, knowing that you're going to find that right dog or that right cat or pig or whatever animal it is that you have. So don't worry about that at all. I tell you what, I'm going to leave you with one last story. When my Akita died, I wanted to get a nice urn for her. So I went to a local funeral home. And when we go there, we're met at the door by this gentleman. He's, very nicely dressed, and you could hear the, little music in the background playing very softly. And the gentleman met us and he said, hello, welcome to such and such funeral home. How can I help you? I said, well, I'm here to look for an urn. He said, oh, we have a great selection of urns. If you wouldn't mind coming this way, have a seat, and I'll go get the catalog. So he gets it and he brings it back. My friend, she's flipping through it. And the gentleman says to me, he said, if you don't mind me asking, who is the one that has departed? I said, it was my dog Sheba. He said, your dog? I said, yes. It's funny how the tone of his voice changed so quickly from, if you don't mind me asking, who is the one that has departed, to your dog, really? And I said, yes. He said, you do know that there are urns out there that are specifically made for animals. I said, yes, I know that, but I want one of these. He said, these are kind of expensive. And I'm like, yes, I know that as well. He said, you sure you wouldn't rather get one that's made for a dog? I said, no, but I could go somewhere else to find an urn if you'd rather me do that. He's like, no. Please, just, take your time, look through the catalog, and just let me know when you're done. And we finally found one and had her name on there, engraved on it, and a little quote underneath that. And it was just absolutely beautiful. But I thought it was so funny how that gentleman's voice changed so quickly when he found out that it was for my dog. And then, of course, when Dakota had passed, when I went back in there to get another urn, he didn't try and sell me on an animal urn or anything like that. So anyhow, I hope you enjoyed the story. I hope you enjoyed all the stories. And if you did, then hit the like button, or also hit subscribe and the notification bell, so that way you know when another video is gonna be popping up. And until then, have a great day, God bless, and I love you.